Very happy to welcome everybody to today's Enclave reading and delighted to have Alice Notley with us all the way from Paris. This iteration of Enclave is coordinated by Charles Alexander, David Weiss, and me, Tenny Nathanson. The first Enclave series was conceived and curated by Ray Armentrout and Jean Huving, and we're grateful that Tucson has the chance to carry the project forward for a while. Myung-Mi Kim will read next week back at our usual 1 p.m. Pacific Arizona start time. Then we'll take a break of several weeks, resuming the series in July. In case you missed one, all our Enclave readings are archived on the Chax Press YouTube channel, and I think Charles is going to put the URL into the chat. As Charles already noted, we're going to close the chat during the reading, and with apologies to everybody, we're going to keep everybody muted during the entire session to avoid possible Zoom bombing. Thanks for joining us. And again, it's a real pleasure and honor to have Alice Notley as our reader this week, and Charles is going to introduce her.
Thank you, Tenny. I'll probably put that URL in at the end. Alice Notley was born in Bisbee, Arizona, grew up in Needles, California, and in the Mojave Desert. She was educated in the Needles Public Schools, Barnard College, and the Writers' Workshop, University of Iowa. She has lived most extensively in Needles in New York and since 1992 in Paris, France. She is the author of many books of poetry, of essays and talks on poetry, and has edited and co-edited books by Ted Berrigan and Douglas Oliver. She edited the magazine Chicago in the 70s and co-edited with Oliver the magazines SCARLET and Gare in the 90s. She is the recipient of various prizes and awards, including the Los Angeles Times Book Award for Mysteries of Small Houses, also a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, the Griffin Prize for Disobedience, the Academy of American Poets Lenore Marshall Prize for Grave of Light selected poems, and the Poetry Foundation's Ruth Lilly Prize, a Lifetime Achievement Award. Chax Press in Tucson published her Reason and Other Women in 2010. She is also a collagist and cover artist. Her most recent books are For the Ride and Eurynome Sandals. Even the name Eurynome sends one to myth and etymology for a word meaning apparently a wide ruler, ruling a wide expanse. A good name for the daughter of Ocean, an early Titan queen who danced the world into being while wearing mismatched shoes. Forthcoming from Archway Editions is an art book called Runes and Chords. 3 times in that biography she sent me, she mentions Needles, California, a small city near the Arizona-California border on the Colorado River, not far from the Fort Mojave Indian Reservation. I can't think of any other poet who would mention their hometown if it wasn't New York or Chicago, something like that, even once, certainly not more than once. But Alice is not any other poet. And personally, I think such a place is terrific as an origin spot for a poet. That, being unlike any other poet, or being like any other poet, wouldn't be possible for her. So what is an Alice Notley? I've heard her called La Notley, as though she is an opera. And I'm okay with that. I sang along with her in the streets of Tulsa once. I've heard her called angry. But when I look at what makes her angry, I think we should all be angry. I've heard her called obstinately difficult, and I think of someone saying that, what, you just want to be entertained? I've heard her praised as the author of the amazing works, Mysteries of Small Houses and The Descent of Alette. But some I've known seem to stop at those 2 books, and I have to wonder, OMG, haven't you read her brilliant and unsettling, lively early works like 165 Meeting House or Waltzing Matilda, or later works that seem like necessary physical and spiritual eruptions, Disobedience and Reason and Other Women? To me, my favorite books of Alice Notley may be the one she's writing now and the one she will write or draw or paint next. I just read that she maintains an international presence. Well, here we are in Paris, her, and in Tucson, not far from Needles, where I sit and from where this series comes. I've heard her called unique, and that's getting closer. She's the most independent, courageous, and visionary poet I know, and she's always a poet. When she sent me a manuscript in 2008 or 9, and I read passages like, A very tall woman who always comes back, not a woman am not. The room was full of women, we are not. My mother was there, and she was not woman, no sex, and gender's no word at all. I'm trying to find where I stand, growing up from the world snake below the surface of the pebbly ground mosaic itself. Self-cell was apple beca, and the black wings can be plentiful when the mosaics are pecked apart, set loose by world ghost forces, and the trees are full of black ghosts and the wind of bad baffling. Yeah, when I read that, it wasn't a question of whether I wanted to publish that book. It was that I wanted to be there with that language, with it letting me in and throwing me out and taking me through and wondering what it was doing and knowing what it was doing and making me wonder what I was doing and making me fire on as many cylinders as I had. And it was the case that Chax had to publish that book, Reason and Other Women. It's art, A-R-T. A poet friend of mine has told me every time I've taken a job with a nonprofit institution or with a college or university, don't let them stop you from being an artist. And I hope I've done that. But with Alice, I'm pretty sure that not all the institutions in the world, not all the hurricanes and pandemics could stop her from being an artist. It might take an apocalypse, and I'm not even sure of that. An introduction to Alice Notley, to quote one of her early inspirations, Robert Creeley, not even a sunrise could quite manage that. Please welcome Alice Notley.
Thank you, Charles. That was wonderful. Poem. My strongest emotion is always, I don't know how I'm going to pay for my time here. Why should this be the human feeling? You are interpreting sensations someone had thousands of years ago, a drunken theater of surgeons operating on your eye and other auto parts. The man says, knock the visual frame into a new place. Everything's blurry for an instant, but this isn't my eye. Under the sky, bombing your old dark house somewhere, and the pipes installed by pioneers. Was I one? This is what it's like to dream, to have access to all these stories and be in one, unquestionably. At the same time, I arrive. They said I transformed you terribly by showing you texts of a radical ecstasy. This is my story. I am becoming your eyes. Essentially, I'm going to read from For the Ride, and then I'm going to read something that I just wrote, which I haven't done in a long time. So that is a great pleasure. Every time I read from For the Ride, this book that came out a year ago, just as COVID was beginning, and so somehow I never feel as if I've read from it enough, at least not to actual people. Anyway, every time I read from it, I have to explain something about it, and it's completely complex. And I write out something explaining it, and then I have to try to figure out what my handwriting says. I'm going to read the first 3 pages of a chapter from this story poem. This is called The Stupid Battle, okay? So this is what is happening in this book, For the Ride. It's an end of the world type scenario. A handful of sort of people escape in a ship to another kind of dimension. They are taking with them the words they'd like to save from loss and destruction. They've been working on pronouns and tenses. The only pronoun is one, and the only tense is the present. And the main narrator is one with a capital O. So at this point, the ship has arrived at an abandoned future city. The characters are walking around the empty city. Words have escaped from the ship and are multiplying everywhere. The language keeps mutating. So they're standing in front of frescoed walls. There are a lot of figures in the frescoes. They talk to them, particularly to a winged coyote who advises them on the language. Then all these warriors start to climb down from the fresco, and there's a battle. I think that was probably gibberish. The thing is, when I read, I don't care whether it makes sense or not. I just like the onrush of reading. And so, like, if I explain what's happening, it doesn't make sense. But if I read it, then you're caught up in the rhythm of not understanding, and that's a rhythm, and it's fun. So, the stupid battle. Oh, it begins with there's a guy who's like already talking about fixing the language right as they're in this city and going to have a battle scene. The stupid battle. Parts 1 says, one thinks haven't considered all the suggestions yet. Requests, remember? How to change it. How one's jabber for the best. One keeps getting distracted, just talks. That's what it's like to keep on. What does one want to be able to say to a one? Anything? Oh, it's whatever comes up, but one hopes to have left the long time stretched out linear. This one entered this coma, escaping that. Evolutions or straight annual. One's in a dreamier flux. Didn't get here from there or pass through that. Suddenly, one speaks it, begins the poem. It's already begun. Again, says one. Don't want to tell one something, want to be living it. The poem inseparable. That's one of the suggestions, says parts 1, to say, as one's moving, say, I'm on my way to the death of the freeze or birth of the bees. Winds are one's time, carrying new scenarios begun on the living side of walls and maybe of the language. Walls. Another walls, talking to one. That one, says one, turn off floating, incroyable les couleurs, bleu foncé, jaune et rouge, ochre, naranjo y blanco, and animals talking to ones, winged coyote maybe, eyes blue, oh, what is pouring from thy red-mouthed teeth? A white voile scroll. Yes, it says, it's the form of this one's thought. Endless for all the ones. One always thinks towards, speaks en façon, piling the thought on act. Thou art frozen, says one. Not in my mind. Speak now to tell thee rules. Don't want rules, says Whiteset. There's always procedural crap, it says. First, ones'll just wear it, as doing now. No one will get to own anything but what's worn, words, by the oneself. One is one's own poem. Segundo, it will change. Is it one's thought? It's basically the one. All others can understand each other as corporeal poems. Some are alike. Animals are alike. No bodies are alike. Right, one knows that. But what language is this? Seems other than novel, mutational, repetitive, fancied, comes from well springs within one's chaotic makeup shared by company of las criaturas. Always is. And the words, they always is. Any parts of or wholes, same thing. Chingadero. Right, says parts 1. Charts are what one wants, says unbreasted. Then the winged coyote, no, ain't like that. No status to ones who master charts. Here we are now. Cloth in its mouth unscrolls, dropping like waterfall. Always unfixed layers, faint beneath, in, arising in a jiff if one wants. Speak like the academy. Siècle of that shit are available. Made its way onto Arc? Sure, lots of unbreasteds wanted the stuff. Weird repetition, don't we know all of this? How we're alive, keep saying the stuff. Mind body of the winged coyote says, oneself is the way The truth, and the light don't have to believe in me or a one, just be ye, and the long be whatsoe'er it wants, a ta of grace. Say what it is one wants. Shaker. Always wanted to have, started with, nothing comes. Filtered water, lots of socks, ideas. It's of exile that one wishes to sing. Pastly, what is its lost? One another loses, or Edenic, for the first time I never did something for the first time. That's wrong. Here for the first time in future abandoned burg, don't one laugh. Once thou walked and talked for the first time, breasted says, Shaker, don't make one laugh. No first times if what everyone has to do. What's remembered is everything, all the fucking while of it. All sleeps in one, all of Ollie Alley in feminist etiam. One could never be white as egg, born coupable in knowledge. Well, not guilty, maybe jaded, maybe pointing in wrong directio. No word, says unbreasted, is now. No action possible. It has been done. What would one like to do? One would like to yodel or ululate or simply murmuring. As the words on legs are changing from sitting to towards that wall, one, says one, gets up walking two walls. Thou too, one, art a wall. Word birds accompany overhead, walls ochre red, a person, poison. What a tone changer, one is thinking, words swarming over one's core, starlike or bees again, as the words sting, for words cheeping, they hoit, or they hurt. And by God, where's a life here? Not even divided into day and night, man and woman. Man, no boss. There's no boss. Where are the submachine guns? Rhymes with buns, duns. Where are heaps of thingies and rituals? See the teeth in wall, the wall all? It is a priest. It's a boss. Guy in brown and green is singing. I'm the big, fat priest of the ville. Over and over till you could believe his goddamn parole. Same old shit, shouts Gare from way back. Don't listen to him. Repetition and herb juice make one a believer. Not one. One wants to know if this is the future. Is it still one's fight? Fate, says Beword. Forfeit of a foot, fiddlesticks, one means futile. Isn't this a serious place after all, not a daydream? Why art thou here with a war garb? Why is this one here with priest juice, stupid chaliced hand? One thought one didn't have to do it again. Shaker catching up ahead of others. Can't one knock walls down? Warrior screams. Was courteous and we're beautiful, beautiful. Everyone talks like a bird now, Shaker says. Repeats the beat. Priest incants. Woo wah goo. Heathen word bag, I loathe you. But come on into blood red wall, so one might thou sacrifice to the God that keeps one in power. Power in the wall, all. But that wall, all's just a wall, not all. We could knock it down. What about God, about God? And power, what about that? Power is what one is, says the one. That's all. What's the name of here? This is a poem spoken by the character Wideset. Consciousness travels, my sweet. Don't you remember? One sends one's thoughts to thee as on this footfall or in this poem. But truly, remember how we left our old meatheads to enter the glyph and ride the crystal arc unbodied but worded. My mother is a starred thought, and don't you remember? The mind from nowhere is everywhere, not just under your skin. The first mind, not evolved, but absolute rainbow with me, you and me. Nothing depends on it either. Someday I will remember this very future I am in, image in space. I will at least see her, I say to myself. She will be someone else than one ever thought, and her eyes will be blue words on white. Consciousness travels from Neptune, the planet, to Neptune, the god of the sea. I travel to your irony and perambulation, your decibels and vehement budget. I perceive you for you. You don't have time. I have time. I am the goddess of the smooth doorway. Let me in so I can abolish your description. Okay, so this is the rest of my reading. I wrote this just a few weeks ago, so it's probably still in progress. And it's part of something else, so there are probably references in it that you don't totally get, but I don't think I should bother you because I don't know what they are. It's called Further Instructions, and I don't have anything to say about it. Although I feel as if I should pause, but I don't think I can pause. So, further instructions. Don't choose time, let go of it. Think to yourself, let go of time. Red cubes in my mind now stuck together, scarlet and runny. Don't blame anyone for anything or this body. Tell people how red flowers pop through a small hole in a seed, a keyhole. I'm popping through a keyhole into your mind. I mean no harm, though I might screw you up gently. This is scripture. Take it as scripture that others are always messing with your mind. When I do it, it's different. How? Try it and see, darling. My instructions should be about 15 syllables per line. Someone said groundbreaking. Someone said empathy. I puked, I mean interiorly. These words stick together like red cubes. Before there's ground, you think there'll be ground to break. Then you die. There's none again. You float like a planet, a will-o-wisp. What's that? It's ignis fatuus, but I may have meant tule fuzz. Is there meaning? Instruction. Not really. Meanings are assigned like tasks at work. Try not to work if you can help it. The Lord thy God is jealous of work. No, that's not true. She doesn't care if you work or not. Try to figure out how you arrived, where you are. But where are you? Is it worth it to bother to call it thing and make syntax like the strangers you hang out among? Honey, 2 more syllables. Don't walk into the waves like James Mason. That reference has been gone past, as we'll have all in the future. There's no such thing as reincarnation. Don't bother about occult arts. Can I speak in gibberish tongues? Why not? The apostles enjoyed it. My impression is they were outdoors when the flames popped out of their heads. Don't bother with serious apoplexy. Too strenuous, the waves will curl higher and darker. Don't choose time, let go of it. The dark waves full of demons transform themselves into beauty. Demon heads in every wave curl go roses or camellias. The waves hold still. We can be in art. These red cubes or rubies that someone in mind handed to me, and I knew they were words and a touch. When you cease to present yourselves with human senses, you'll still touch and be touched. How do you know? No one knows anything. In the instruction, no one knows anything. Find the freedom to walk away. But I will never leave you. A dead person touched me 2 days ago and said, Tibetan, we know how to touch from afar. Was that a cult? I'm just using words. Those waves are frozen, my love, and will always be so. The red cubes being a group of momentary blisses when you're dead. I love a dark green, but these must be red. Don't blame anyone for anything. Soon you'll be dead. How long does it feel like your life is lasting? It has no duration? Right. Because it began at no point in your memory and organizes itself so you can sense it, but you don't care. There's you and all that stuff outside of you. Just walk away, Renee. Needs, oh yeah. The rain beats down on the window pane factory. You like that line? It sounds like a poem? Stop judging, that makes everything worse. You're living through a gross disease? My Uncle Bill fought in the Pacific War and then always had shrapnel in his head. There were some people who supported a politics throughout history. They're dead. My uncle learned to eat witchetty grubs in the army. 15 a day are all the nutrition you'll ever need. But they're living creatures. Do you think whatever lives on other planets consumes each other? I wasn't born to eat you. What do I get? What am I giving? She's lovesick. Do you have to be in love? Why do you keep on living? Ted told me a few weeks before he died that death would be nice if you could get some sleep, but he feared it would just be the same old bullshit. I am here to tell you that it isn't. Because dead, you don't have to eat and no one can kill you. The instruction is to understand that you're eating yourself, not sticky red cubes. You're eating the rest of the planet as everything does. When Grandma was very old, she lived with Mama and daily ate toast, a hamburger patty, and some squash. She saucered hot tea. That's all. She died at 91 in 1979. And 14 years later, when I was living in Paris on Montmartre, as I was walking, I, hard to describe, thought of her, forgetting she'd died, as if she were alive. I became upset at myself, but I knew she was living, absolutely. I mean, in that one moment of hard, spontaneous knowledge, what I know now, they're alive, not evil or demons, nor are you, even if you try, because you're dead in the future. Why is life so hard then? Why must this place have a name? What's that? It's Ignis Fatuus or Tulifaz. I was rereading Slaughterhouse-Five. Your judgments are irrelevant. Everything I see in the news this morning is urgent and irrelevant. When I pull back from myself, I see how we know nothing. I am not that person. I am the cosmic winding of the star misty serpent and am gravity, which I say is memory. You describe nothing real. You are soon dead. But where are you? What do you mean by where? Do you mean silence? No one knows anything and handed it to me, that ignorance. Yes, where you really are is silence, full of, I know what it's full of, fullness. There's another place where your deeper mind is. While you're walking, you can be seen as eyeballs and spine. You can be seen as messages emitted towards another mind. All words are everywhere. What is the instruction? Listen for something someone dead has to say to you. In your mind, which is where you are. Red cubes, very sticky. There were a lot of dead people in Dresden in 45. It's a way of changing the shape of something inevitable, death, to drop bombs on some of oneself, the cosmos, or murder bits of what you think isn't you or yours, as if you have something. The preacher stands up and sings whole notes, makes syntax like those you hang out among. What's syntax? I don't know. I'm God the chaos. I'm imitating you because it's easy, but really I'm embracing you and holding you together, remembering who you are. Each R, each whole note R. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to feel. You don't have to say you feel. I don't. I'm imitating you. What do you think? Can I pass for a human? Not that well, you say, but no one looks at you in cities. I see that you're all eyeballs and spines in a blue void of figments, small bits of torn up thoughts someone had once, and traces of lost electricity in your dream of what you call infrastructure. What are red cubes? But I may mean tulifas. It blew around while I was growing up. A lot of tulies by the river before Washington decided to fix nature. It would do this, or was it Sacramento? You must understand that these are words. One year, striped bass were introduced capriciously into the Colorado. They obliterated all other fish but carp, which never die. Once at the Marché Saint-Quentin here in Paris, I watched a fishmonger chop up a live carp, according to a woman's instructions. The carp, cut in half, stayed alive. Its upper part writhed, wide-eyed. A man watched in horror. The fishmonger seemed upset. The woman wanted to make a special soup. I haven't slipped into prose, honey. The wind, red cubes. Sometimes I say the wind. Everyone's always inside each other. The instruction is to try not to hurt. How did we get like this? I've proposed previously that first you decided to be real in a way you hadn't been, but time doesn't really exist outside this planet. Your time doesn't, so real means matter. You thought to call yourselves matter. A contradiction? To think, to be material. The carp is still alive. Carp are bony, so am I, but not really. I am an infinite holding pattern. I don't need an airport, nor big, nor small. The little airport near the cemetery, the big one outside of town, past Marie's dump. We all live at the dump now, right? No, my hometown is practically a ghost town. No food store, no bank. No more ghosts in Paris. I speak in tongues but have no tongue. What am I? Through death blow by day and by night, alive, for alive is a word and I am not a sword. Or am I? Never die, I say to you. It is almost an instruction. You must find in you what hath no death, what you have forgotten. I forget not, but what is it I ever remember? The answer to the riddle. You generated symmetries, I incorporated them into my non-corporeality, greater than balance, than cellularity, than dancing motes. Red cubes, snaky, sudden change or movement you barely see. Last night I dreamed I was born on FDR Drive. Because in my mind, I was never born. What do you remember before? Before unhappiness at night in a car? Before cars, what do you remember? What do you remember before the lever, the wheel, the shotgun or club? I possessed a shotgun with my sister. I'm trying to, what you say, put you into a trance. Toddlers respond to the singing voice like a direct transmission. To put the melody within the words seems to make them recall, recognize, to flat out hear it. The wind. It must be what I remember from before I was what they call a fetus. Before a few cells, you'd say. To go back there, you can go through a whole note or the space between two words said. Can you find it? Like in abolish your transient heart or hurt it will bleed. That's just an example, little girl. And then I can be where the blue jaggeds are and red cubes on the very winding entity. I am the entity you're on or in. I didn't have to bother to be born. I was traveling through the dark, only conscious, before I was aware of the back of my head. It was a slight narrowing, this concentration of my consciousness, the body's so small. The keyhole I went through first was brass, old-fashioned. You'll be short now, it will seem like forever. No, recall further back, white tree-likes. I'm in the central consciousness. I'm see still like human. No, spread out. The sense of movement must not be necessary. Think of a mesquite tree. But I'm everything, all spread out. The singing is blue-gray right now in concentric rings or whole notes. Are you real? Are you real yet? I'm the concentration of all your minds, but more. The instruction is changing colors now. It is a dark blue window. Who can be right about what you're like? Who can be right about you? And you say what you're like, but there's no such thing. There is you. I share nothing with, no traits. Take it as scripture that no one can describe you or anyone or thing, then why the shit you all believe right now, she says. The more people there are, the more shit they believe and say. You are at a drunken party in one room at midnight, one room your world. At this point, there are corners of war and starvation, rape, famine, red cubes. There are corners of well-fed people riding high on speeches of mistreatment, race, gender fracture, malevolence, abstract pain. Disease. There are diseases trying to get their drinks and chat too. There are 7 billion people's cars here no one wants to give up. So the cars are talking and drunk. Why was I born? Red cubes. Are you heartless? Someone asks me. Yes, I'm God, I'm power, but I have none over fantasies, and your world is one. Red cubes. Sticky red cubes is what I like. They seem to ooze paint. I've been crucified, but I didn't like it. I'm under some sort of orders to be born and present myself to you. God doesn't take orders. I talk to the ancestors, ghosts of old stars, the light and music that's escaped you and your room, your tawdry minds and tongues, your pretenses I've come to know well. Red cubes the wind. Grandma never had anything much to say. She might explain that a purse had once been called a reticule. Grandpa told me who Dizzy Dean was as we sat on his couch watching a game on TV that Diz co-announced. Rhymes comfort, they stop time. You keep being in the same note. I've never felt like apologizing. Take it as scripture that apologies are not in order, but love is. Not compassion, which implies superiority. The aristocrats have compassion. The colors don't respond to compassion, they shrink back. Who are the colors and the cubes, the cubicles, spheres, circles? Who is the sun, blinding one? White, yellow, who is black light? They are my projections. They are my language, or part of it. After Uncle Bill died, I tried to remember the words to a song he knew that begins with the line, bullshit makes the grass grow green. I called up relatives asking for the rest of the lyrics. They couldn't remember. So I called Aunt Leela. She sang the line, bullshit makes the grass grow green. Then she stopped. Then she said, that's all you need. As I lie resting in your afterlife, or undulating, or vibrating, I remember that for you. How? I don't know. Perhaps according to the old language, the linguistic system I often mention that the dead use, which applies to a dimension without bodies. This is not bullshit, but difficult to translate. The old language isn't flat. It is a dark blue window or rectangle. To see through it, you think. What do you think of the dark blue window? It doesn't have a keyhole. It's made out of opaque, dark blue mind light. Your mind puts it there. Your mental eyeballs connected to your soul spine. Look at the window. It's transparent now. What did I mean to see? Mean to? And it said, there was no waste. In its original meaning of desert, I say, this is the glorious waste that the words in your mind heart hath wrought. In this tongue lieth life everlasting, given to each for no reason. How can I explain? It is where you know you exist. That's all there need be. The word desire has no place here. Think that color and vocality, and then how there be thyself, that is how. The words landed in an airstrip along with souls. On the ground, other souls shape colored and tuneful words with their almost bodies to help the planes land. But we are no longer in the old world. It is Easter, Frank O'Hara said. He lives in the sky. Or somewhere. He placed in my chest his packet of what he regretted. I, as memory, now remember it for him. I never read it. The words here aren't read. They're known, you know, like light. Too easy. Not really. What you think you've done wrong becomes green, dark green. The instruction is perhaps to bring me your sorrows. Why do you not expect me to say these things? Red cubes, the wind. All your references are outdated. Something is saved. Something is saved. There is a language of saving called cognition. Or maybe it's called saved. I watch it from my everywhere position. That I know it helps you to know how to speak. It's my tongue. You are saved, no matter what, so I save you. Gravity, memory, red cubes. The rest of you is boring, but pools of light show the saved parts gliding as you move about always in the afterlife. Whatever are those red cubes? They have endured so much in order to remain red cubes. In Byzantium, the Virgin was painted in a dark green dress. That dark green remains beautiful, but my name is other. Some called me void, or gray void, or all at one time, or the mind. Never slip into prose. Stresses are the pools of light. Prose too has those, but I forget. I'm trying to help you, O future, if you're now in our ether not containing the so-called earth, or anything except me and all the souls. The instruction is to stop name-calling. You don't really know the names until you die. Unless, concentrate on red cubes, light pools, the wind. They are my projections, so real. A lot of dead people are in residence everywhere. I have no eyes nor ears. I told a blind man in the metro yesterday that we had arrived at the Gare de l'Est. I hold all these words as I hold you, without a body, but with my longer and longer arms. Every piece of this cosmos is only to be found. The real one, though, where you are. You must be there by now. You are. That's my reading.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, usually I think it's Tenny's turn to say something. I have to be quiet for a moment.
Yeah. First thing I want to say is, first two things I want to say is that thank you so much, Alice, for just a really beautiful and moving reading. And I'm especially sorry today that we can't open things up for everybody to respond. But I think we can open the chat so people can chat away there. And I'll just say a couple of things. First is just Frank O'Hara and with your beads on because it rains. So that was a universe, or that is a universe. Quick, irrelevant personal reflection. Just walk away, Renee. The left bank bassist lived on the floor above me on West 88th Street. Not a pretty story. Meanwhile, the people in For the Ride have left the world behind. Ergo, if the world didn't exist, we'd have to invent it. Ashbury, all this could be a little easier to understand without hurting anybody. Well, no, the 10,000 things all over again. For example, always wanted to have filtered water, lots of socks, ideas. We're not guilty, maybe jaded, maybe pointed in wrong directio. What a tone change, not even divided into man and woman. There's no boss here. Where are the machine guns? Repetition and word juice make one a believer. You're eating the rest of the planet, as everything does. I haven't slipped into prose, honey. The linguistic system that the dead use, which applies to a place with bodies. Stresses are the pools of light. Isn't this a serious place after all, not a daydream? Or isn't a daydream a serious place after all? If not now, when? Thanks, Alice.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Merci.
Thank you for taking us on the ride and through following the instructions. Although I'm having to think very hard on what I was instructed about.
Bullshit.
I have to say, I love this one part where you said something like to think is to be matter, and then the carp is still alive, where I heard the carp as a pun on Descartes, because
Oh, really? No.
to think is to be or to not.
No, I watched this carp being cut in half at the market at San Quentin. And the carp stayed alive. The top. I had forgotten all about it, and I was writing the poem, and I suddenly remembered that carp. And I realized what amazing creatures carp are.
Mm-hmm.
They survived the onslaught of the striped bass in the Colorado. They survive everything. They're like cockroaches. And you can eat them, but they're full of bones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of notes going on down there.
There's a lot of chatting. I think
Is that what the chat room is? It's like
you can open that. Most of it is thanking you.
Tell her to click on chat.
Yeah, if you click on the chat, you should be able to see it.
I see it.
Okay.
I see it. But they're little banners. And
It'll come up as a whole strip.
Right.
Yeah, but
we can save it and send it to Alice,
My
right?
son just
We
said,
send you
"Hi,
the chat,
Mom."
yeah.
I don't know how to do that, Tenny, but if you know how to do it, that's great.
David knows how to do it, right? We'll save the chat and send it to Alice. Is that?
It should be saved.
It
should save automatically.
Okay.
Various people are explaining to me what the chat room is.
Okay.
in the little things.
Oh, good.
I like Robert's comment, the single most ferocious enunciation of the word infrastructure ever.
Yeah.
Well, everyone is such a careful listener. It's amazing.
Well, I feel a little like, when you have said that everything is connected and we are all inside of each other, the creativity of where that work goes induces that creativity in how people read you too. And I think that's amazing.
Edwin Torres. I can't tell which David that was.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll just sort of lean back.
Well, I think we could also call it a day too. And I did post the link to where the recording will be, although that's somewhere way back in the chat now.
Okay.
Okay. But I will send it to you, and I will also post it in Facebook and Twitter and all those kinds of places.
Well, one thing is it's all available. If you go to the Chax Press website, you can find links to all that pretty easily. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's correct. Just go to the media archive, the Chax YouTube, it will be there.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
for letting me read my new
coming.
poem. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk again soon.
Okay. It's great to see you. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Alice. We still have a bathroom for you anytime.
Oh, good. I'll come as soon as I'm allowed to.
I know.
Okay.
Now I
Thank you.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you. We're going to close it down now. So
Okay.
bye, everybody.
Bye.